Hi there, it's John again, and this time I'm looking at emotional disturbance and those times that we perhaps feel a bit down, that we don't feel so good, and just having a look at some of the issues, if you like, that people often don't realise or have forgotten. One of the conversations that I have with people in my counselling room, it goes something along these lines. Somebody will come in and they will say, well, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling a bit anxious, I'm not feeling so good, and I've no idea why. And as the story unfolds, it seems that quite clear that that person has never actually looked at their life circumstances and the impact that their life circumstances has had on them. Now, I'm not going to be breaching any confidentiality. I'm not going to identify any people at all, but I'm going to identify certain scenarios and see if you can recognise them in your own life. Well, one of the scenarios is, for example, say somebody has had several losses. And when I say losses, I don't necessarily mean that people have died. All sorts of circumstances have happened. Perhaps somebody, for example, has lost a few friendships. Perhaps they had some very close friends who have moved away, and so the contact is a lot less. Well, a natural reaction to loss, be it the loss of friends, be it the loss of an animal or a pet, be it the loss of a loved one, perhaps somebody has actually died, maybe someone has got divorced or in the middle of divorce proceedings, and even where the marriage relationship wasn't particularly good, actually when you put the person's life into the context of the things that are happening around them, you actually suddenly realise that part of this feeling of being down, this part of the feeling of emotional distress, is actually a natural response to the losses that they have experienced. So it's really important to, if you like, put how we're feeling into the broader context of our life and what is actually happening in our life. And losses, unrecognised losses of relationship, can indeed be very stressful. Another type of conversation I've had with people is that they're feeling extremely stressed, and then I ask them maybe about, what's happening with the social life, what's happening with work, say. And what I find is that people are actually feeling very stressed because they're in a life situation, which is incredibly stressful. Maybe they're having a lot of pressure at work, and that in itself is very stress related. Sometimes I explore with people, well, how do you go on with the people at work? And I discover, for example, well, actually, so and so is I feel very bullied by so and so. Well, if a person is being subject to bullying, then, or they certainly, or they feel that they're being bullied, there may be misunderstandings or whatever, then if you feel that you're being bullied, it's not surprising that you feel stressed. Life circumstances, sometimes ill health, physical ill health, also has emotional consequences. Take an example such as seasonally acquired disorder. Now, it's very easy to say to someone, or to think to ourselves, well, you're feeling a bit down, you're feeling a bit depressed, there's something wrong with you. But actually, quite often, what is wrong with us is that it's really just a reaction to our life circumstances. With, for example, seasonally acquired disorder, a lot of people with seasonally acquired disorder, when they feel a bit down in the winter months, it's found that vitamin D3, for example, can help them, or a sunlight lamp that helps their body produce vitamin D3. And people will often find that they actually begin to feel quite a lot better when they buy the sunlight lamp. As a counsellor and psychotherapist, it's very easy, for example, to fall into the trap of thinking that if you're down, you have an emotional or a psychological problem, inverted commas. And the first thing that I do is to remind myself, and indeed remind my clients, about the life circumstances that they're experiencing. Because often our reactions are natural reactions to our life circumstances. Now, there's always, with things like that, and I'm not talking about deep-seated emotional, psychological issues that perhaps go back to childhood. I'm going to be talking about those perhaps in another video. But there are two aspects, obviously, to, or perhaps more than two aspects, but the two aspects I'm thinking of at the moment to this. One aspect is to say, well, let's have a look at your life circumstances. Just acknowledging that, for example, well, I've had several losses, so I don't have to worry so much. It's natural that I'm experiencing that loss, experiencing that bereavement process, and that in itself can be a tremendous relief. It's like, well, actually there's nothing seriously wrong with me, this is a natural reaction to what I'm going through. And the same thing for people who are being bullied. It can be quite a relief to say, well, actually, yes, I am being bullied, and this is wrong and it shouldn't be happening. And these very negative reactions that I'm experiencing are a consequence of that. So it's very important to look at our life circumstances. It's very important to think about where we are in the seasons, whether or not perhaps feeling a bit down is linked to the seasons, whether or not it's about perhaps with seasonally acquired disorder taking some extra vitamin supplements and actually feeling a lot better for it. Also, if we are a bit socially isolated, it may well be that there's nothing significantly wrong with us, but we're reacting to that social isolation. And then it's about doing a bit of planning to say, well, maybe I can just go out and make some new friends. What are my interests? I like this, I like that. Let's go and think about what interests me, what new contacts can I make. So a lot of things that maybe we think of as being, it's serious and it's my fault. Often clients think, it's my fault. Actually, it's not. Now, as I've hinted at, there's two aspects to counselling on this score. One is maybe to think about, well, can I change my circumstances? How can I stop the bullying, if that's what it is? How can I get a better social life, if that's what I need to do? How can I make some more friends, if that's what I need to do? So one aspect, if you like, is the outward, is the outer aspect of what we physically do to change our circumstances. And that could mean, for example, with the bullying, changing jobs, or it could mean activating the grievance procedure, getting a shop steward or a union to help us to deal with it. You know, sometimes people are not, managers are not realising what they're doing. Sometimes they actually know exactly what they're doing and they're not going to stop. So there's the outward aspect of it. And then the other aspect is how we deal with the emotional aftermath of all of that. And that's where, and I do another video on it, things like practical exercises like mindfulness can really help. Now, mindfulness at its simplest is, instead of, if this is me, or if this is the issue and this is me, mindfulness is about not being so wrapped up in the issue that you're like this. But mindfulness is getting a little bit of space, being mindful, noticing the feelings, noticing the thoughts, noticing the impulses to behave. And often just being a little bit of some body awareness is important. And just going, okay, so I'm noticing it. I'm just going to imagine keeping it company. I'm not actually going to allow myself to be overwhelmed by it. I'm going to get a bit of space imaginatively. And it's being in relationship with something and treating it with some gentleness. That's a very, very simple idea of mindfulness. I'll talk about more about that. So little things like mindfulness can certainly help you deal with the inner aspect, the emotional aspect. But that also shouldn't stop you from taking practical steps to try and change things in your outer life as well. But to conclude, if you're feeling a bit down, don't always just blame yourself, but actually step back and say, well, what are my life circumstances? And is this a natural reaction to my life circumstances? Can I take some action to maybe change my life circumstances, maybe contact a friend, own a friend, go to a social club? Can I get a shop steward to help me if I'm being bullied at work? Can I change that? And then the fourth thing is, well, can I actually manage my emotional responses better? And I'm then hoping to do more videos on all of this stuff. Hope that's helpful. Okay, bye.